Hey there, and welcome to another SolidWorks how-to video. In this video, we're going to talk about how to set up some templates in SolidWorks for parts and drawings and other things that will sort of help automate a lot of our drawing creation. I went through some of this in a previous video on populating title block information in drawings in SolidWorks, where we sort of set properties and things. The way I went through it in that video is great for starter or for one-off type work. This video is more focused on sort of automating that for the future so that we don't have to go through and do the the sort of setups in that video that we did every time we create a new drawing. So to start, I'm actually going to create a new part uh, because what I'm going to change to begin with is the part template that SolidWorks uses. And then I will go back and change the drawing. So for now, I'm going to create a new part. And I'm going to leave this part blank for now. Later on, I'll create a part so that we can populate the drawing and see all of the sort of information come in. But for now, I just need a part file open so that when I make changes, I can save it to my part template and not have any headaches. So first things first, we need to get into this files property. So I'm going to go File, up here next to the SolidWorks menu on the upper left of my screen. I'm going to go down to File and I'm going to go to Properties. I'm going to use these properties to populate my title block. And there are certain fields in a title block that I know that I sort of always need. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and create those. So this first page, the summary page of the properties, contains things that are sort of always there. And I'm going to go ahead and leave these as is, but because I'm saving a template and I'm the one using this system, I don't need to leave all of them blank. So I can populate Pearson, for instance, my name. That's a big secret. It's on the YouTube channel here. And if you're one of my students, you already know that. But I can populate the author. Comments, what I'm going to end up using comments for when it comes to the drawing is I'm going to use it for a notes field that I will add to my drawing template. So things like, well, first of all, the default, every drawing I do has a break all corners and sharp edges. So when I add a little notes section to my drawing, that will pop up. I can control enter in this box to get a new line and put another line of text in here, and just add to it if I need to. But I know on just about every part I make, especially if it's due to be machined, I'm going to have a break all corners and sharp edges note right on the drawing. The title I'm going to leave blank because that's going to change depending on the actual title of the part that I'm making. I'm also going to leave subject blank. And the way that I personally use those two fields, and we'll get to this in the drawing too, is I treat the title as the title of the part, but then I treat the subject as sort of the overall project. So for instance, if I'm drawing a little self-drivable robot, for instance, the title might be robot chassis bottom. The subject would be drivable robot, right? The overall project that sort of ties all of those drawings together. Then on the custom tab, I've got effectively nothing because the default SolidWorks template um, has no properties in it, but I can add just by dropping down. And there's a few things here that in this drop down menu that are sort of standard. I don't know if these are useful for any of you, but they're things that are here. There's quite a few that I don't ever bother with. Um, but there are a few that are sort of always a standard on the title block. So I'm going to go ahead and use, let's see, what do we want? Revision is a thing that I know that I'm going to want. So I can throw that in here. And then when I actually make my part, I can just type in this value field like revision A, and that's what'll pop up on the drawing later. For now, I'm going to leave it blank because I don't have a revision right now for this part. And remember, this is a template so that if I were to put an A in here, every time I would open a new part, it would have an A, which is probably okay. Um, just something, and in fact, actually, now that I think about it, live on the fly here, that's not bad. Leave the first revision in there, right? Because when I create the first part, it's going to be revision A. But additional properties then. So we grab material is a thing that I always throw in, right? Material is always on my drawing so that when you're looking at the 2D drawing, the machinist or whoever is making the thing knows what to make this part out of. This, though, rather than leaving this field blank or typing in it, I'm going to use this drop down to automatically grab under properties here the SolidWorks material. That will automatically then populate that with whatever material I assign to the part. Like right now, material not specified, right under evaluated value. That's the exact name over here in my feature manager because it's a brand new part and I haven't specified a material. So once I change that, if I were to change this to say steel, I don't want to because again, I'm making a template. I don't want to make any changes that aren't going to be consistent across any part that I might want to make. But if I were to change it to say steel, this would automatically populate to steel. So other properties, let's see, what else could be useful? So stock size, not really. Finish is a thing that I always throw in. So we'll throw that in there. My standard finish is, especially since most of the work that I do is in steel, my standard finish is black oxide for the protection that it offers. Frankly, because it looks good, is a big part of it. But black oxide is in previous lives what I would put in here as a standard note. My standard finish, I want to be black oxide. In this case, I'm going to leave it blank and I'm just going to put NA as my default. I'm trying something new than what I would normally do because nowadays I don't do so much work in steel. There's a lot of 3D printing and everything else. So, but finish is definitely a field that I want. What other fields in here could be useful later on? Cost is possible. Now, these specifically are intended to be from SolidWorks built-in cost feature. I haven't found a whole lot of use for that, but it is a thing that is available. SolidWorks can do some cost estimation, and they even build in setup times and tooling change times and stuff like that when they calculate the costs. I personally haven't had much of a use for it. Um, so what else is in here? Drawn by could be handy. And in this case, drawn by is typically used not as an author, but as initials in a title block. You'll see a set of initials. So let's do BSP. And then under that, I saw date. So drawn date could be handy. I'm going to leave that one blank because that's going to be whatever date I happen to be drawing this thing on. What do I have for types? So I can put a date here. Um, I don't know if there's an option for today. That would be handy, but it doesn't look like it. So we'll leave it blank. We could populate all these approvals, but frankly, when we create the drawing the first time, we won't know what these approvals are. So we've got clients, we've got projects. You could use project for the overall project name. I choose to use subject on that first tab because it's already there. And then frankly, most of these we can get in other places and or I don't typically use them. So company name might be a good one. Let's do that. And what I will use that for on our title block is customer. So that's what I'll use that for. So we've got revision. I'm going to take and drag and sort of reposition these. And notice as I click the number and start to drag, I get a red line sort of all the way across. I'm going to drag the automatic one down because we won't be changing that. Finish, I'm going to put right below it, actually. So we get material finish. And I'm just right now just reorganizing these things so that it makes kind of a logical flow. So I'm going to drawn by revision. Let's throw company up at the top, the revision of the drawing drawn by and a date. And for now, this will get us through with what we want to have in there. And again, you can leave these blank. I chose this time to populate them so that they'll come in later in my drawings. So what I want to do is click OK. So my properties now, if I go back up to the upper left file and properties, they stay populated. right? All this stuff is still populated. Now, what I'm going to do without actually creating a part is I'm going to go up to File and I'm going to Save As. And here I want to select in my Save As Type dropdown, rather than a part, which is the default, I want to save it as a template. So where are my SolidWorks templates in this list? Right there. There we go. Right there. There we go. Part templates, the PRT.dot file. And notice the folder up here that this save as dialog box is going to save in is automatically changed. And if can I expand to this? I don't really want to expand it. There we go. Right. So this is the sort of default folder where SolidWorks is going to put all of its templates. You can save them anywhere. You can even overwrite the default. If I click this, it would overwrite the default part. I don't necessarily want to do that. I'd like to be able to come back to, say, a normal default state if I want to. So I'm going to add my name to the front, and it's going to save it in the default folder so that when I go to look for it or go create a new part, it's there, right? So I'm going to save. My new template is saved. I'm going to go ahead and close this part and quickly show you how to make a part using that template, especially if you named it something new. So I'm going to close this part. I'm going to create a new part. Now, if I just use this window here, the standard window we've seen in all of my videos, and create a part and click OK, right? If I come up here to File and go to my properties, all my properties are gone and empty. That's because by default, SolidWorks grabs that template that we saw in the file, or in the folder rather, that's named part.prt dot, whatever that extension was. So this is the default template still. So if I close out of this, in order to get to any new template that I created, I need to click on New. And rather than just click OK or click on Part, I need to click Advanced. And it will grab any template in that default folder. And there's my new Pearson part. I can click on that, hit OK. Now, if I come up and check my file properties, all of my properties that I created are there. The default values that I entered are there. The summary, all that stuff is there. So that any part I create now has that information in it already by default. And the rest I can add as I actually model the part. So I'm going to go ahead now, before we go ahead and jump into the drawing and use that information, I'm going to go ahead and just create a part just so that I've got something to drop in to the drawing. So I'm just going to create a quick rectangle. I just need an extrusion. I'll just leave that default. So I'm going to save that, get out of the templates folder. SolidWorks wants to be, but because the last place we were was in that templates folder, I'm going to put it in my downloads, only because I know most of the things in my downloads are safe to delete. And I'm going to go ahead and leave it as part 6 because it's a throwaway part. I just need something to put in the drawing. Now, to create the drawing, I'm going to create a new document. I can stay here or I can go back down here to Novice. This Novice button will get me back to my sort of standard normal file type selection, but I'm going to go to Advanced because I was already there. Drawing now, it's the only drawing template I have. And I'm going to click OK. Right. I'm going to select B size because that's the one that I like, B size landscape. And I'm going to click OK. Part 6 is what I want. If I come over here to the right side of my screen, I've got a view palette. Oh, actually, because I created new, I didn't create from. So, but if I take this part 6, double click on it, that's the one, and now it'll let me drop a view in. And it doesn't matter that it dropped an isometric in by default, that's fine. So what I want to do here is not necessarily because I'm happy especially nowadays, since I've discovered that they've sort of changed their default title block, it has most of the information in it that I would throw in it anyway. So I'm kind of happy with this. But we need to get some of those. And actually, there is some modification, so we will modify this slightly. These two columns I haven't ever really needed on a title block. It's sort of in if we look for sort of standard title block engineering type guidelines, you will see these columns. I haven't really needed them, so I will show you how to go ahead and get rid of them. So what do we do now? What I'm going to do now to make this drawing of the part sort of automated is I'm going to edit the sheet format. So right click on the sheet format, edit. Now I'm going to click here. There is a text box here by default. We can't really see it. We can see it if we sort of drag and select everything. All of these boxes with X's are fields that SolidWorks has already inserted. Now, I'm not too nuts about some of these. For instance, this is a field that SolidWorks has inserted. And I'm not nuts about that file size because, as you can tell, it's huge compared to this actual field. So I'm going to get rid of or change, most of this stuff. So, and actually, the best way to do that is to probably, let's get out of here. I will accept my changes for now. I'm going to go back to my part, and I'm going to actually populate some of that data. So let's file properties, company name. I'm, going to call it Baker College for now. Again, this stuff can all change. It is the 22nd of April as I film this. We can still have I'm actually going to put my black oxide note in here. What I want right now as I set up this title block is I don't really care what it is, but I want things in here that are fairly long so that I can set the font sizes properly so I don't have to mess with that every time and it doesn't overflow the various boxes on my title block. The summary as well, I've already got an author in there, title. Let's see, this is test, YouTube, video, plate. Subject, like I said, I use that for the project. This is for YouTube. And I just, again, want something in here that is fairly long that represents, like, say, the extent, the longest title that I might put in here. That way, when I set up my title block, I can get the fonts sized correctly so that everything fits. So YouTube, SolidWorks, not a tutorial, I guess. And let's see, anything else that we need? We've got that. Let's click OK. Switch back to my drawing now. And actually, I should probably save that just to be safe. Save it and then switch to my drawing. And then if I right click and edit my sheet format, now I can start to play around with, well, let's get out now. And if I ever need to refresh, like for instance, I want to refresh the data in here just to be sure that it pulled in the best. That's what this little stoplight icon up here is for. That's the rebuild icon. If I hit that, okay, I just wanted to see that there wasn't anything already automatically populating. So I'm going to edit my sheet format. I'm going to click here where the title is. There's already a box. Remember, everywhere. So this, the part 6, is automatically pulling in the file name of that part. I just left it as part 6. There, when I highlight this, you can tell there's an orange box there. That is a text box. However, it's tied to the PR sheet description field. I don't want it tied to that. I want it tied to information from my model, not from my drawing. So the sheet will pull the information. If I were to set up the file properties of my drawing the same way, it'll pull in that. I don't want that. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to actually double click so that I'm editing the text field. There's nothing in it now. It's empty. I'm backspacing and deleting just to make sure it is empty. Over here on my left where my feature manager was, I now have properties and I can click this icon here that says link to property. I want to click in the model and we can either select the component or other drawing view, or we can do the drawing view specified in sheet properties. Drawing view is probably fine. which means it's going to grab and it'll show you which one we want here. Part 6, which is fine. That's the model we want. And the property name, then when I expand that, gives me all of my custom ones to begin with, but then it also gives me a bunch of SolidWorks properties that I can sort of tie to. So for the title, we're going to use SolidWorks title. That's that default title. And notice it populated automatically. That is really big, right? But we're on 2 lines, so that might be okay. What I would really like to do, I think, is to shrink that down a little. We don't need it quite so huge. And that looks actually a little better. One thing we could do is if we need more space, this title box is large enough that we could put multiple text box in and do like a title 1, 2, 3 property in the part. I have done that in the past. For now, though, that's fine. That looks okay. It's a fairly long title that should allow us some space. Where else do we have an automatic title? We have an automatic thing here, a text box rather here. That's where I'll put the title. So I'll click in there again, double click. I'm editing. I can come over to the left and link to property. Again, I want the model and the drawing view is fine. And the property I want in this case is that subject because that would be the project name. Now, in this case, that is also very huge. I'm going to drop that font size down. I also don't like the fact that it's in Times New Roman where everything else is something else. What actually is the font? Let's okay this. And what actually is the font here? Century Gothic. So we're going to at least make those match. And by just changing the font. Scroll, 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 and Century Gothic. Where are you? Right there. Okay. So that fits already nicely. That's sort of the project we're working on, is how we'll treat that subject. Even though I called this part 6, that is a fairly short name. So I'm going to go ahead and first drop that font size. I'm going to maneuver this text box so I can make this width bigger and sort of fill up that whole part area. I don't know why you shifted. Okay, maybe I won't fill up that whole part area. Can we also, we may be able to change vertical alignment. Does not look like we can change the vertical alignment. Disheartening. Why did you change my center? Maybe I don't want to center it. There we go. So we'll shrink that text box down, I guess. I'm going to move it down a little just to fit it better under this, drawing number heading. And we're going to hope that it just kind of grows as we need it. So I see that there's a rev text box here. So click there. So double click it. I can also link to properties and model. Drawing views fine. Property name. Remember, I added a revision field. And A was the default that I put in there. So it's populated now. I can click out. Material we have, and it's already automatically pulling it in. The problem I have is that it's too big for the field. So I'm going to go down to 8. And actually, that's probably still too big. What if we did 6? That's probably about the best we're going to do and still be able to read it. So I'm going to go ahead and drag it down just a little just for appearance. The finish fits already just fine. Notice that it's there as black oxide. Then the other thing I'm going to add drawn. I don't believe. Oh, yep, there are a text box in each one of those. So I can double click here. And again, link to properties, switch to the model, grab the property of drawn by. So we get the initials. Okay, there was a text box here as well. I'm going to link to properties, go to the model, and leave it there and come down to drawn date. Okay, I set that previously as a date field in the part template. And when I entered, I used what's known as the IEC format. So 2025-04-22 is what I entered. But since it's a date, SolidWorks automatically interpreted it to what it's set for date format. So that is absolutely fine. Let's see, what else do we have? We did the material, we did the black oxide. Let's kind of get rid of these guys. So these columns here, I've never had much of a use for. So frankly, I'm going to delete them and we'll walk you through how to, modify your title block. So I'm going to delete the word application, the used on, and the next assembly. And the trick here when deleting things is just to be careful because, for instance, when I highlight this line and select it, you can tell it runs all the way over here. So if I just delete, I'm going to lose my underline for this finish box as well. What I want to do rather than delete that line is I want to drag the end of it. Ooh, all right. We don't want to drag the end of it first. We want to get rid of this coincident. So the tools here are identical to the tools in a SolidWorks sketch. We've got the coincidence. We've got a midpoint here, which I'm also going to delete just to make sure things don't drag with me. I'm going to drag this end of this line straight over. And notice I can come off and I can snap right back because that's the path it was already on. So I'm going to come over and make it coincident with that line. Let's see. This line is not shared, so I can just delete that one. Same here. Same here. All the way up. None of these look like they're shared. This top line is. I'm going to delete that. I can go ahead and delete the center line while I'm here. I'm going to drag this. I'm going to delete this vertical first and then drag this guy over. All right, undo. I want to snap to that horizontal, which it doesn't look like it will let me do, but I can at least, it doesn't look like we broke things too bad. Come down maybe a little bit. Just to even things out. That looks pretty good. So now I can go ahead and I can click here and control click and move all of this text over. This text I want to keep. I am going to make it a little bigger because as I insert the company name here, depending on how long that company is, this thing could end up adding lines. And I just want to give it a little more breathing room. So I'm going to do that, but then I'm going to also move these lines over to keep it boxed in. So that's a modification of the existing title block. What I can also do, I can click in this text, double click. I don't have to have a property in a box on its own. I can put the property in here. And what I want to do is use that company name or customer or whatever. What did we end up calling it? So if I link model here, property name and company name. So it populates that Baker College there as I put it in. And I can do the same here. Highlight the second company name. Let's cancel out of that first because I didn't do that the first time. So select, link, model, company name, and OK rather than cancel. And then I can do the same thing for the second place that sort of pops up. Link, model, company name, OK. It looks sort of ugly. Can we delete? We can delete sort of the extra lines and let SolidWorks figure out the best formatting. So I'm going to do that. I'm just deleting what are in effect fake extra lines. So it's extra lines, and SolidWorks sort of had manual line breaks in their default block. All I'm doing is deleting those manual line breaks so that now it's automatic. And if I make this taller, as say Baker College turns into widget manufacturer, international, LLC, DBA, all of that good stuff, it'll automatically add lines now and things will look relatively okay. So I'm just going to click off. All of that information is all of the information I wanted. I'm going to go ahead and accept the changes in the upper right. Now, if I right click on my sheet format and go back in, actually, I take that back. That is not, I don't need to right click. What I need is I need the file. And under save as, I have save sheet format. So before I saved a template, and I don't really need to change my drawing template. I need to save that sheet format. So I'm going to save the sheet format. It automatically drops me in to the folder where all of SolidWorks keeps its sheet formats. So B landscape is fine. I'm just going to, again, add my name and save that. Okay. So I'm going to get out of here, close out. I don't need to save. I already saved my template. Now I'm going to make a drawing from this part. I'm using the drawing template, which is fine. I didn't change that template. What I did was I changed my sheet format. So instead of just accepting B here, I'm going to browse and I'm going to grab my new Pearson B. Open, hit OK. And it comes in now. I haven't dropped a view yet, but it comes in. And since I did new part drawing from part, I have the views over here. So I can just drop a view in. And as soon as I do that, notice that all of that automatic information populates. So that's where I'm going to leave this video. Sort of the way to sort of automate all of these drawing tasks. I mean, I know the information I put on here is stuff that I want on every drawing, right? Well, I would go back into my part and change this black oxide to NA again, but I did that for demonstration, if you recall. Oh, and I mean, I would also come in and actually add tolerances here to the block so that it, sort of doesn't change in their default. But that's all simple text. We don't really pull those from properties. So with all of that, then I will leave the video here. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in another SolidWorks video.